Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. There's a lot going on in the background here today, guys. Um, anyways, again, we're at our new studio.
We are
This
in a
is
new studio.
our second time here at the new studio, which is
And
really
you
cool.
are?
Oh, well, I'm kind of trying to get to that because last week we forgot like a whole bunch of stuff
We did.
because we were
We always.
at our new studio. But I am Tammy White. I'm the founder of the Bobby White Foundation, along with.
I am Bonnie Snyder, your co-host.
So now you know who we are again. But yeah, last week we forgot to thank Rob and John. And I mean, they're our biggest supporters, Area 52 Media Group. Wasn't as hard coming off, it's getting easier. Um, and our producer, John, and our tech guy, Rob, we couldn't do any of this without them. And I was remiss last week after the show. I was like, oh, we didn't thank everybody. So I wanted to make sure I got that in at the very beginning. But we have a lot of new things that are coming up that you don't even know about yet.
See how she does me, guys?
So, but some of it is still in the works, though. We are, or I am, the foundation is now a member of, I got to see if I can get this right, the Association of Professional Fundraising. I can't remember it. It's AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals.
Okay.
Um, so I just, at the beginning of the week, got notification that we're part of that now with the Tampa Bay chapter. And then we're going to be bringing on another partner in a kind of a different way, TD Bank. They have this program for nonprofits. And I don't have all the details yet, but to begin with, like if you will go to TD Bank anywhere and open an account and say you're doing it, for in remembrance or whatever for the Bobby White Foundation, you mentioned the Bobby White Foundation, then TD Bank will donate $50 to the Bobby White Foundation. And then every year that you still have your account at the end of the year, they'll donate $25.
Nice.
And then they also have some other grant program. It's all stuff that I'm learning. So, and I don't have like all the specifics for the program yet, but as I get them and we start promoting, them as kind of another partner for us, they've been really, really nice. It didn't start off so good with the gallery part of it, but we've ironed things out. And yeah, they called and because they found out, that I had this foundation, and I was like, wow, that's really kind of cool. So we're gonna another person to thank and help us.
I mean, and out of fairness, when you're like, you don't know about these things, and I'm like, see how she treats me, but yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, for clarity and transparency and whatnot. When we do the show, there are, a couple different, what I'm going to call the aspects of the show, and, 100% things that goes on with with the foundation and whatnot. That's all Tammy. That's all you. There are things that are happening with the foundation, whether it is a seminar that we're going to or an event that we're going to get put on. That's when Tammy tells me. We've got this going on.
Oh, by the way.
We got this going on, and oh, by the way, you're going to be there. Because I think we've shared, throughout we're in our second year. It's hard to believe. We're in our second year of doing this. But we've shared, in our off the set, life. Tammy is, totally foundation, and I'm totally, my coalition work and what I do for my full-time job, I should say the job that pays the bills, and then there's the fun job, like, the passion, the job that I have the passion for, and that is this. But we do a lot of joking on the set, but yeah, see how she treats me, guys.
Oh,
No,
I don't see her a lot during the week.
No, and I think, I think over the years, people who know us and, people who have followed us on the show, they know that this is a genuine friendship. we have going on here. There's genuine love between the two of us. So much so that we do kind of pick on each other, and we know that it's all in love and fun.
Oh yeah.
But I am really excited about the partnerships and whatnot.
Yeah, it's kind of like, and for me, and it's just the way that I'm built. It's like everything takes longer than what I want it to take, and I've got to keep all the time reminding myself, we're only 3 years older, we're only
Right.
4 years older. We've only had and I'm always comparing myself to other organizations around here that I know, but then I'm like, damn, they've been around 15 years, they've been around 20 years, and that's hard for me though.
Well, and to that point, if you remember when we first started doing the show, and John had made the comment to us, about, don't get discouraged, and this is the one thing that, for us, I mean, we are blessed to have the producer that we do,
Most
who gives us this
definitely.
platform. And, like I said, it was like, all right, we really want to see what's going on here. This is like, it should have been like here. Like I'm thinking, we should be Oprah status.
Yeah,
No,
really.
granted, nobody's gonna get Oprah status. Yeah, but anyway, to that point, when you think of, oh, we should be, Good Morning America, or well, let's keep it local, Morning Blend or something like that. We should be at that status. But then there is that again, like you said, that reminder in the back of her head that's like, look, we're in our, second.
Just going, yeah,
Are we into our third year now? Have we started? Are we still like in the midst of our second year?
I think we're into our third. We've
Surpassed 2 years.
Yeah.
We're in our third year right now.
Right.
So we still have. Well, we still got a couple more years to do this, and then hey Oprah, what up? Just saying.
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil, what up? But again, I think we are blessed to have the guidance from the John and the Robs and the whatnot that
We
help
do,
us do this.
and and one thing that really want people to understand, and how much we really appreciate these guys, is because we've been doing this show for 2 years with no sponsorship.
Right.
No matter what we try, and that's kind of a focus really that I want to try and figure that out, is the sponsorship thing, because these guys are here for us every single week. And we need sponsorship. John and I have had conversations, and it's people that, and it's not as though we don't know people in the community. I've been here for 32 years and have been in business. Actually, next month will be my 29th year for the gallery. And it's not as though I don't know people or people don't know me, but quite often our comments that are coming back to us are, well, it's so dark. But it's not, and I don't know how we're going to get past that barrier.
And I think this is something that we've talked about too. And for me, when I look at sponsorship and things like that, as it relates to topics like this, and I'm going to put again, this is put on that mental health hat, that piece of it. Not, and it's not so much, it's not a mental health kind of thing, but when you look at different subjects like mental health, addiction, suicide, and whatnot, these are topics and subjects that most people want to stay away from. And I think for me, I would look at it as, it's not necessarily that I would characterize it, although yes. So I'm going to, a bit contradictory here. It is not so much that it's a dark subject. It's an uncomfortable subject. And, I think as we progress through time and whatnot with anything, uncomfortable conversations are getting to the point to where they are more comfortable. From, the mental health perspective, one of the charges that, we are starting to lead, from, the mental health, perspective, is, challenging stigma and erasing stigma, making it okay to have these conversations. Like we have said, multiple times when we're talking about reaching out to people, that reminder that we do at the end of every show. Although last week we zipped her. But anyway, seriously, when we're doing these reminders, and letting people know, hey, talking about, these difficult situations or difficult topics might be the very thing that saves somebody, and I know we have shared ad nauseum at times. Had it not been for, you know, this person, and I talk about, yeah, it was my first, um, was it my first, anyway, whichever one, whichever cancer diagnosis. And, because I don't see my face, so I'm in the mirror, I'm not in the mirror that much. But I couldn't see what my face is doing. And I was over at the neighborhood market, and, I just remember the cashiers I was checking out looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And I'm looking at her like, why is she asking me? Sweet woman, sweet woman. I remember, her name to this day. And I'm looking at her, and she asked me again. She goes, are you okay? And for some reason, that just, that very question just gave me permission to just, no, I just got diagnosed with cancer, and I'm trying to process, what's going on, and what my doctor is saying, and what, this whole thing. And she was like, I mean, listening, just like listening to me. And I was like, her job was just to, scan my groceries, throw them in a bag, give them to me, take my money, and say, "See ya, have a nice day." The fact that she took, her time to, as she's checking me out, we're having this conversation. And I remember I was leaving, she very respectfully said, and I paraphrase, don't take offense to this. She goes, "I'm going to pray for you." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, thank you very much. I'm a spiritual person, so, it wasn't offensive to me." And then, subsequently, every day that I would, go into the store next, I would ask, "Hey, she is, I guess, if she was working." And they were like, "Yeah." And I looked at management and I said, "Look, you know, this, what she said in those very words." And they were like, "Oh yeah, no, she's amazing." And I remember one day I came in, and, I'm going through her line, because I didn't care if she had a line going out the door. It's like, I'm going to be in her line. I'd love to know what she is doing now, if she realized, her dream. Because I was talking to her one day, and she was like, she was going to leave the store. And I'm like, wait a minute, she's like, "You can't go anywhere." Like, no, 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 you're my favorite cashier. How are you leaving? But she was like, no, 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 no. She was actually, had applied to, she was going to go to, and again, I might get the name wrong, so, for my Catholic friends out there, that one over there, is it seminary that nuns go to? Or is it something else?
I would have no idea.
What do nuns, is it seminary school?
I
Monastery, or is it? Okay, so anyway, whatever it was. Okay, so you guys are wondering, like, what am I doing over there? Yeah, Greg is sitting right there. We talk about him enough on the set. He's over there. But no, seriously, she was saying that she was, going off to the convent to, become a nun. And I'm looking at her, and I was like, that's so cool. But then, I shouldn't say but. The light, it's like, oh my gosh, it made perfect sense. Not that I'm saying you have to be a nun to do this, but it made perfect sense. It explained her personality to me. But again, it goes back to that, it was a very, a unique experience, to illustrate. Sometimes all you have to do is say, "Are you okay?" And then be okay having the conversation. Yeah, you might get that discomfort going on, but sometimes, there's, what's that phrase? Some people say, sometimes our worst pain brings us the best joy. And I know they say that to those of us who are parents, moms. It's like, those labor pains, those labor pains are no joke. But at the same time, as one that has given birth to children, and I'm, going to speak specifically my oldest son. Ooh, that, yeah, I'm pain tolerant, but no, not that time. But I look at that as, after he was born, completely, like, I didn't remember the pain that I can talk about it. I remember the experience, but I it's like, that hurt. It did. I remember being in pain, but I don't remember the pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's I don't have that experience, but that's what I hear every mother say, no matter what. So yeah, that's yeah. I don't, these time right now, I mean, yeah, you just talk to people.
Hmm.
You know, it is it's hard. We were talking just before the show how crazy the beginning of this year has started out, like the ending of 2020 or 2022. Um, and of course, I lost my mom, and um, uh, just last night, everybody got word that Lisa Marie Presley passed away. And the thing that part of what sticks with me with that is, in 2020, she lost her only son Benjamin to suicide, and she wrote an essay or did an article on how painful losing her son was and how it literally broke her. And the only thing that really kept her going were her three daughters. And she's got an older daughter that is an actress, and she's got twin 14-year-olds that
And
left behind.
when you say that,
Mm.
I was listening to an interview this morning. Um, or was it last night or was it this morning? And regardless, where they were talking. Actually, it was this morning. I was taking my grandson to school, and they were talking about the fact that she was gone, and the interview, the conversation that we're having was for the guy Rolling Stone who had done an interview with her, a few years back. And as I'm listening, to it, they were like, one thing you can say about her is like they said she was no BS. She was not about the
Mm-hmm.
BS. And as I'm sitting back and I'm listening to them talk about, well, first of all, when you think of um, names. And he was like, I've interviewed, like, Julian Lennon. I've interviewed Sean Lennon. I've interviewed children of, these, rock legends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but regardless to what rock legend you're talking about, that one name that's always going to be on top is Presley. And so they were like, so, she was like very much, um, kept it real. She was not about sugarcoating. She was not
Mm-hmm.
about like, we're gonna have this conversation, we're gonna have it now. Anyway, this guy was talking about, and I share this because I think it's very relevant to what we talk about, in, talking about, suicide or mental health or, those difficult topics. But they said, he goes, he went to this interview with her, and Rolling Stone had given him this list of questions. And, he was like, I give her credit for, I forget whether he said jump starting his career or, having a very significant impact on his career. And he goes, but anyway, he says, he goes in, with this list of questions. And he goes, now, mind you, here I am, I'm interviewing Lisa Marie Presley. I'm interviewing the only child of Elvis Presley who, and, of course, we
Mm-hmm.
know what the world thinks of Elvis
Right.
Presley. And he says, she's looking at him. And she says, I'm just trying to think how I gets it right. She looked at him and she said something to the effect of, if I heard this right, you didn't ask me what my favorite shoes were. And he said he stopped and he looked at her like, you asked me nothing, and I know
Mm-hmm.
because my ears peaked on, she said shoes.
Shoes, yeah.
But, she was like, you didn't ask me what my favorite shoes were. Like, you said nothing about what's my favorite pair of shoes. And he said he took a step back and he looked at her for a minute because he understood the context of what she was saying. And he said he goes back to Rolling Stones and he was like, he's looking at these questions. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, this is the dumbest stuff that we would ever ask anybody. Like
Right.
these questions were like ridiculous. But, hey, Rolling Stone said this is what we're going to ask. This is what we're going to ask. So he said he gets back to, I guess the office and he looks at me and goes, hey, these questions, we're not going to ask them anymore. And I found it, as I'm listening to this and I was like, wow, that really says something. He goes, if the only child of rock and roll's king, the
Mm-hmm.
king of all rock and roll, looks at us and says, "These are some dumb questions. Are you going to, who is going to question the daughter of Elvis Presley? No one." He was like, "I never asked those questions, again,
Hmm.
like it was never, and I sat back and I was like, wow, that's really, again, it's really relevant to, sometimes we go into these situations with a scripted set of questions, or, I go back to, and again, another one of those ad nauseum conversations that we had, the things that we say to people, with grief and loss or anything. "Oh, I'm so sorry for the loss. Oh, they're in a better place. Oh,
Yeah.
it was God's plan. Oh, it was, and you're sitting back like, I don't want to hear it, like, I don't want to hear that. And I think for us, as we've talked in our own experiences, now how I approach someone who has lost somebody is very different than the way it was before. And I think about, again, listening to this interview this morning, how very relevant. I was like, I could apply what we've done in terms of talking about dealing with this to this young guy, his first interview, or one
Mm-hmm.
of his very first interviews is going to, interview this legend. And, she looks at him and says, "That's the stupidest set of questions. Like, you didn't
Yeah.
ask me about my shoes." And it's much like, you know, don't talk to me about, I don't want to hear my person, my loved one's in a better place. No, better place would be right
Be
here.
right. Yeah.
I don't want to hear, that it was God's plan. Okay, well, maybe it was, but I don't want to hear that either. That's like saying, "Suck it up, buttercup." No. No.
Yeah. No. There's real people and real feelings behind all that. I mean, and hard feelings,
Hmm.
and a ton of different grief and loss. I mean, I know going through, since losing my mom a few weeks ago, it's weird how going through this grief being so much different than losing my husband or losing my dad or losing my first husband. And ironically, like with this one, there has been, I mean, my mom lived, she was 81 years old.
Hmm.
She lived, a pretty good life, but it wasn't expected. It was sudden. She just went to sleep, which is, I guess, they say that's the best way to go. But there has been so much intense emotions up and down in a shorter period of
Hmm.
time, which is really weird for me. It's so much different than what I've experienced
And I mean,
previously.
yeah, and it's a really, it's a in your face, for lack of a better way to put it, illustration on how grief affects us differently. People think, okay, so if I suffer a loss, I'm going to experience each loss exactly the same, because what's the common denominator? It's me, you know, but it's not, So, like you said, if you look at when you lost Michael, when you lost your dad, when you lost your mom, when you lost Bobby, it's not like, okay, here's this here's this Tammy lost blueprint that, to follow. Here's this Bonnie lost
Yeah.
blueprint, because I'm with you. I look at, um, you know, if I think back losing, when I lost my grandparents, the most important people in the world to me, those are my grandparents. Losing, my sister, losing my brother, decades ago. But then, more recently, the two back-to-back
Hmm.
losses. How did I process losing Aiden versus how did I process losing Pat? And it's like, yeah, market difference.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or let's say market, significant differences between the two.
Yeah. It really is. It's and I found, because I'm kind of doing this long distance. My mom lived in Washington State, and fortunately, I'm so grateful that my sister and her family moved back to our hometown
Hmm.
to help mom out after dad passed away, and they're taking the brunt of this. And my niece, she's the one who found my mom, so it's been hard. Um, I was talking to my sister last week, and I'm like, because she hadn't done the obituary yet. And not that we minded at all, not at all. We were having people reach out to us, mostly friends of our moms, wanting to know how she passed and, if there were going to be services and all this. And because it was so sudden and unexpected. And I'm like, Trina, you need to get the obituary done. And so my brother-in-law wrote it, so she sent me the proof, and I'm like, yeah. I said, that looks good. Oh, should I put a picture? And I'm like, no, Mom didn't do it for Dad. Just, I said, what you did is just fine. You just need to do it. So it was like a week later, and I'm like, Trina. And she's like, I know, but it's like one of those other, it's so final again. It's one of those reality that this is real again. And she did do it. And it was fun. It was funny. So it was like in the middle of the night the other night, having problems with my truck, and I woke up in the middle of the night. My head is just like going all these different directions. So I thought, well, let me see if the newspaper published it. So I went on. This is like 3:15 in the morning, and they published it, but my name was spelled wrong. And I was like, are you kidding? So I texted my sister early in the morning, and I said, yeah, I saw it, but my name is spelled wrong. And it's all fixed now. I checked today that it was all fixed. But she goes, I said, I know it was right on the proof. She goes, I know, I don't know what happened. But anyway, but it was just, it's just one of those things. It's just like, really? you But yeah, it's just the ups and downs of it, and being far away, not, and I don't know when I'll go back, if I'll go back, it's, yeah, but it is weird how the emotions are so much more, kind of more extreme in a way, and compressed. Yeah, it's.
Well, I mean, I think too, when we look at, what makes the experiences different, when I look at it, what was the relationship you had with the person, that was lost? What connection did you, what experiences did you have with them? And I look at, losing a mom versus losing, a spouse or, a significant other. Right, your mom is your mom. It's to give birth to you. But then if you didn't really have a really good relationship with your mom, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to feel the loss of a significant other more than I do a mom. Or it's like, hey, I'm really close to my mom. I'm really close to a significant other. The relation, that loss experience might be exactly the same. Or, you know what, this one's a little different because this is the person that gave me life. This one's a little bit different because, well, this is the person that, is my life. Gave me life, is my life. It's.
But two, it may not end up being the way you think it is going to be.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, that's the way it is with my mom. I didn't imagine the intense emotions that have been going on at all. Not at all.
Well, I think about too in terms of what you said about not, sometimes the experience is not what you think it's going to be. Because I remember and this is God, some 30 years ago, give or take, and it's probably been about 30-ish years, when I lost my grandmother. Okay, now like my grandma was my grandmother. I mean, you understand the relationship I had with her, phenomenal. It's one person in the world that I think should have been devastated for. But anyway, when I lost her, I remember going back to Jersey, for the service and whatnot, and I didn't cry, and it's like I could almost say I didn't feel, like emotion. I didn't feel the sadness. I didn't feel, I was like numb. I think it was more numb.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember, I went back to Kansas when I was talking to a therapist friend of mine, and I looked at her and I'm like, I just lost the most important person in my life, my grandmother, and I feel so guilty. And I said, because I didn't, I was at the service. I didn't cry. I haven't, I didn't cry when I heard that she was gone. I didn't cry at the service. I haven't cried yet. I feel so guilty, about this. And she looked at me, and I remembered that, what she said to me to this day. Don't get so wrapped up over, how you're experiencing it. And she's like, it's not that you didn't care or anything like that. And she goes, and back to what we say here, everybody agrees in the morning. She goes, I will tell you this. And I think we've shared this story before on the show. It will hit you when you least expect it. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, but, you're not doing anything wrong. And I just remember, I was at work, I was active duty at the time, so I'm sitting in my office, and somebody came in and asked me a question about car freshener. I worked in the jail, and our jail had a car wash. And, one of the guys that worked for me came in and he said something to me about, we need to order some more cherry car freshener or something like that. And I turned around and I looked at him and I just burst out in tears. Okay, you're going to order this. And it's like, I said, we need it. And I'm like bawling. He's like, what's going on?
What did I do? I just asked for a car freshener.
But like I said, thankfully, I know this guy now, he's a minister now. But he, like, I looked at him, I said, it's not you. And I was like, I said, it just, and I told him, I said, it just hit me all at once that Mama was gone. And I was like, I don't remember, my therapist friend's name, it was like I said, this was 30 years ago. But I looked at her and said, she's so right. When you least expect it, that's when it hit me.
Last week I put together, and I took it from our favorite grief specialist, Mourner's Bill of Rights.
Mm.
Can you pull that up, Rob? There we go. From Dr. Wolfelt. And I'm going to put this on the Facebook page so it's easily accessible, because I think it's important for people, whether you're the one that is mourning or someone that is, that just these little things help tremendously. So we'll have that because our monitors are kind of weird today, so I couldn't see what I was gonna say. But anyways, they'll be available on the Facebook page.
And I love the way he breaks things down in terms of, like everybody processes and understands, Bill of Rights. Because we hear that a lot.
It's in different contexts.
But for him, and I think this what makes him the best in this field, is how he lays things out in terms of, here's, like we started this show 2+ years ago. Here's the Lost Survivors Bill of Rights. And meticulously we went through each one, and said, this is what's going on, and put it in a context. So I love that he said, oh, by the way, here's a Mourner's Bill of Rights. Because where I differentiate between Lost Survivor Bill of Rights and mourners is the person who's in mourning does not necessarily have to be the lost survivor. Now, people will say, well, Bonni, that makes no sense about what you just said there. And I'm like, all right, let me put it into context. And again, if I use Pat, all right, that was my child, okay? So I am, that loss was specific to me. This is my child. Now, I'm not saying that to diminish or minimize, other people in his life. And I think of, one person, she won't kill me for saying her name. He's this one friend, Jessica, and we call her Pike, is her last name. But, when I think of Pike, for instance, I'm going to tell her I talked about you on the show. But when I look at this, the loss that I felt, or the loss of Patrick, I look at her and I say, if anybody else that I can put into who would feel that that loss as much as me would be you. And there were other people that I could name, but I just think of her, specifically, 'cause, she came here. Or I think of, my daughter Jean, my other son Carl, my adopted, son Luke or Lenny, and Chris, um, my other, children that I did not give birth to, but they're my children just the same. But and the rest of y'all, I'm not leaving you out, Barbie, Al, and whatnot. I love you guys. That's like I go through all my adopted children. But anyway, um, that direct loss for us um, is I don't want to say you want to put in one category per se, um, but folks who came, and I think of, say, like my coworkers who came to the service. Now they're in mourning for me,
Mm-hmm.
like the loss to them is not as significant or impactful as the loss was to me. We have a dual role because we're not only the loss survivors, but we're also mourning at the same time. And so it's like, I haven't had the opportunity, but I want to do a side-by-side analysis of what he did with how much the mourner's Bill of Rights differs from the loss survivor Bill of Rights.
I can have that. We can do that next week.
And I was like, that would be a
Yeah,
good
because
thing for next week.
all we have to do, I pull up the Survivors Bill of Rights. I think I did one of those similar to that. Yeah, we can do that next week.
I like that.
I think that would be a good idea. Well, and it's to me it's still kind of a holiday season, sort of like, and we went through our book. Our book that we've been dealing with, Healing Your Holiday Grief, and this doesn't pertain to just the holidays we're in now. Unfortunately, I mean, you have a holiday coming up that really sucks.
I will never look at Valentine's Day the same again.
Yeah,
No.
And with me, it was like kind of Christmas. Christmas was I always tried to make Christmas happy because I did lose my first husband in December years ago, and then I really always tried to make Christmas a happy time. Even after we lost my mother-in-law 5 years prior to Bobby, she was born on Christmas Day, and Christmas became really difficult for Bobby after that every year. But I still tried to make it, a happy time. And then this year, thinking, okay, this is my 6th Christmas. We can do this. And then 3 days before Christmas, my mom dies. It's like, really?
But but you bring up a valid point in terms of how do the holidays affect us? And again, I'm not surprised, but I want to say it's his reason for writing this book is people think of Thanksgiving kind of, but for me, from Thanksgiving through the New Year's, I look at it as those peak times for depression because when I think of Thanksgiving, let's, everybody's around the dinner table and, family and we're all, what are we thankful for and everything like that. Well, if you're a lost survivor, you're like, well, I'm not, please don't ask me to be thankful for the fact that there's a missing chair.
Well,
missing chair.
And that's exactly where it is for me because Bobby's birthday is right before Thanksgiving. Right before Thanksgiving. And that was the time period 3 years into this when I went through my first depression. That was during that time, and that's when it starts for me, like the middle of November, and then all the way through. And this year I'm really trying to do things a little bit differently. And it actually kind of started towards the end of last year when, for some reason, and it's still happening a little bit, the word happiness kept popping out, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be the word for 2023. And even with the death of my mom, it's like you still have to do this. This is your word for this was what your mom would want. But it's hard going through the different holidays. For me personally, it is that Thanksgiving to New Year's.
Well, I mean, and, and again, it's during this season where we see that the peaks in depression and whatnot. Um, for me, I'm kind of blessed because I felt like I actually got to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas twice this year.
Yeah, you did.
I did. It was amazing. It was amazing. I think we shared this. Um, now I got did Thanksgiving and Christmas in 1 week. With Greg and his parents, and and it was amazing. And then of course we come back and we do the traditional Christmas and and Thanksgiving thing. Um, but yeah, when you think of things, again, like, Valentine's Day, and, I like that your word for 2023 is happiness. You know, it- Making, understanding and making sure that we keep in the forefront that um, living life, being happy, okay, and I do the air quotes
Yeah,
not
we're
to be, I
no,
mean,
but
and I don't do the air quotes to be, cynical or
no,
sarcastic.
not at all.
Um, I find all too often that um, people feel guilty when they are happy over a loss because they feel in some strange way that happiness is somehow discounts the person that's gone. And there are times where, I think it's important for us to, take a foothold that says, and as much as I took exception, when my family members said this, you have other children, you know, he's gone, you're not. What about everybody else that's here? And I had to think about that where, initially it wasn't, one may have taken it insulting and people were like, well, that's that person, that's not you. It's true. Um, I think about what would, and again, I'm going to use Pat. What did Patrick say to people who experience loss to help them get through their loss? Okay, what would he say, to, um, anybody else? And I keep that in my forethought. He would look at you and say, I want you to be happy. I want you, you're going to be, everything's going to be okay. Yeah, this sucks, but I want you to be okay. And so a lot of times what I do is, I miss you. I wish you were here. I still see you running around the kitchen. It's like last night, will you please go to bed? The shadows and whatnot. But I know, someone like he, my whoever we lost, would all look at you and say, you know what? Don't stop living just because I'm not here anymore. The worst thing you can do to my memory is to stop living.
When we started this book, we went pretty much chapter by chapter a little bit because there's 100 suggestions in here. So, but then last week when we came back after Christmas, we kind of jumped around a little bit. So we're still going to kind of jump around because you don't have your book. But I had picked out.
Hey, look, okay.
I
You
had
guys
picked out.
notice we have a prop here. We have a new prop on the set. This is why I don't have my book with me today.
But going kind of with the happiness thing. So I picked out two, actually three. So one of them, and it's towards the end of this, is number 98. And this always jumps out to me anyways because of my maiden name. So number 98 is finding your hope. And that's part of the big part of with the happiness thing with me too. Like I said, I got the tattoo hope on my finger in my mom's handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that I was gonna do hope anyways at some point, but this was just like, okay, this is the way it was
Kind of kickstarted.
was meant to be. So finding your hope. And he says here, to feel sad over the holidays is one thing. Everyone who misses the presence of someone special experiences sadness. Feeling sad is normal and necessary, but to feel despair, that is another thing. Despair is the loss of hope. Despair is hopelessness. And at the bottom of each of these we have said he has his, what was it, carpe diem? Carpe diem.
Mm.
Make a list of things you still look forward to in your life. Make a list of people who are alive, from whom you care about. Make a list of everything that gives you joy.
I think that's, that's very important, and it's in keeping with what, again, if I go back to my, that one family member of mine who, and in her defense, one of the things that I think what her intent was, she felt that I was drowning in sorrow and that I wasn't moving past the loss. And I was like, well, no, I'm working my way through it.
Mm-hmm.
How you process the loss of your daughter, it's very different than how I'm processing the loss of my son. We're going to do this differently. But at the same time, I love what he said there because, again, it is that reminder, to us to not stop living, and what we do, whatever that list might entail, it might be the baby step things. It might be, it's something out the back, Rob. Um, but it is those baby steps. It might be, you know what, today I just want to go for a walk in the park. All right. Or today, you know what, I just want to lie on my bed and look at the ceiling. People are like, aren't you isolating? Not necessarily so. No one might say,
Well, that
arguably,
you got to be careful of, though,
you,
because
you do. But the thing about it is if lying on my bed and looking at the ceiling is just because I'm taking some me time and becoming recentered, that's one thing.
mm-hmm.
If I'm lying on my bed and I'm, wallowing in grief and it's a non-productive lying in my bed looking at the ceiling.
Right.
Then yes, I totally agree. That's where you got to be careful with that.
Hope is an expectation of a good that is yet to be. Hope is a belief that healing can and will occur.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's hard, but if you just breathe into that and just every once in a while, like you get, you have, if you have to recenter yourself into that, and that's kind of where, like the last year, I had been working really hard on making things better for me emotionally, and then was thinking, just coming out of, yeah, okay, I can see it's almost ready to launch, and then lose my mom. And it's like, okay, you cannot give up some of that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
For a short period of time, yeah, maybe I'm going to, but I can't let it be that. I've got to, I got to just go in with it. And the next one, this is where it goes to strive to grow through your grief.
Exactly. I mean, I look at it in terms of I don't feel, and again, I'm not saying, I personally, but then I personally, it's like you may not feel the deep stab to the gut, please stop these tears, feeling that you did when the loss was fresh and new than you do now. Um, it is just that, process that you go through. And again, I still miss everybody that I've lost. I still wish certain people, that these people, I shouldn't say certain, because I realize which ones you don't.
I'm pick and choose.
But let me rephrase that. In the grand scheme of things, do I wish these, whoever, whichever person I'm focused on at the moment, do I wish that they were still here with me? Absolutely. But just because I'm not, the tears aren't flowing anymore, I don't feel that deep, stabbing, pain from, lane, let me get my brain working here. Lost pain at that intense, deep stabbing, level. It does not reduce the fact that I miss this person. I'm still mourning this person. I'm just mourning them differently.
Right.
than what I did when it was new.
You may find that you are growing emotionally and spiritually as a result of your grief journey. Growth means a new inner balance with no end points. While you may do the work of mourning to recapture in part some sense of inner balance, it is a new inner balance.
So he just said what I said in a more articulate Dr. Wolfelt kind of way. Just saying.
Okay, here. Growth means exploring our assumptions about life. Ultimately, exploring our assumptions about life after death, after the death of someone loved, can make those assumptions richer and more life affirming. Growth means utilizing our potentials. The encounter of grief reawakens us to the importance of utilizing our potentials, our capacities to mourn our losses openly and without shame, to be interpersonally effective in our relationships with others, and to continue to discover fulfillment in life, living and loving.
Oh, we love that man.
I know. Consider the ways in which you may be growing through your grief. And I think that's kind of like where I am at this point in my life with this crap.
Yeah, I think for me, what I found is, and this is just my own personal journey, and the journey of others, is I didn't want to seem like I was caught in this woe is me, kind of cycle, that I needed the whole wraparound all the time because after a while I'm going to get it, get over it, Bonnie, get over it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to. But to that point, how many times after a loss do we, either us ourselves personally or have we heard, I'm going to be there for you. It just call me night or day. I know we don't, we don't talk on a day-to-day basis, but I'm going to be there for you. And, it might be every other day, hey, what's up? Just checking on you, everything like that. But how many people, like, are
Stay.
not in, are not in my, like, I can count on, a couple, one hand and probably fingers left over the number of people that, are consistently, still there with me and for me. But again, understanding that, experiencing your own growth, being able to do the standalones. Yes, I am grateful for all the people that I consider my support network. But at the same time, I'm also blessed that my support network, understands that when I say, leave me, I'm good, don't, just leave me alone for a minute. Or I want some me time, that there is that balance. I think that's important.
Well, I found this website today, actually this morning, and I think I've come across it before, but I took our positive quote came from this. Rob, you have it because I can't remember it off the top of my head. The link to that grief website, I can't remember the name of it. Crazy Grief, crazygrief.com. And there's actually a video on there that I would like people, I'm going to put the link out there, but this video right here with Jason is really, really good. But yeah, check out this website. I'm going to go back and look at it further, but that's where we took. Are we going to do the grief? No, we wanted to end it on the positive note for last, right? Can't remember. We haven't done. I mean, it's like I haven't done this before.
But here we're sharing a website. So, do we have a positive quote for today?
We do have the positive quote for today. I thought, and there's another one too that I'll have for later. But yeah, a different kind of resolution. This year, I will lose the weight of expecting others to know how I feel and what I need. Instead, I will give voice to my journey, even my healing fully, so that I may heal. Even my healing, my own healing, so that I may heal.
That's some easy weight for me to lose. losing them other pounds. It's kind of like, that ain't happening.
But yeah, I was looking for some others, and I had another one that I was gonna share, and it had the hope thing on it, and but this for some reason it just caught my eye, and there's a second resolution too, so I'll collect that one. But next week's your
There's
next week's your choice.
So, Rob, can we throw our support lines up there, please? Understand, and as we remind you on a weekly basis, if you or someone is in immediate crisis, use these lines, put them in your phone. It may be the very thing that saves a person's life. It's nice that 988 went to that 3-digit number, and it's a call or text line.
Also remember too, if you're with someone that is in imminent danger, get them to the emergency room.
And do not leave them alone.
Do not leave them alone. No.
Yeah.
Listen, just be there for them. But yeah, make sure you have those numbers in your phone. You never know. I had somebody reach out on Facebook, needed information right away, and I sent that and other information right out to her, and hopefully that person is okay.
And
because
as we sign out,
you just got to remember, there's
always
always
hope.
hope. Thank you.